ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಈ ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣ ಸಮಾರಂಭದ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ಶ್ರೀ ತುಷಾರ್ ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿಯವರೇ, ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಿದ ಈ 150 ವರ್ಷದ ಇತಿಹಾಸವುಳ್ಳ ಈ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಪ್ರಾಂಶುಪಾಲರು, ನನ್ನ ಆಪ್ತರೂ ಆದ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ PL ಧರ್ಮರವರೇ, ಈಗ ತಾನೇ ದಿಕ್ಸೂಚಿ ಭಾಷಣ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಾಡೋಜ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಒಡೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣರವರೇ, ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರಲು ಕಾರಣೀಕೃತರಾದ ಎರಡು ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನು ರಚಿಸಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಬಿಡುಗಡೆಗೊಳಿಸಿದ ಆಪ್ತರಾದ ಪ್ರಮೋದ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ರೈ ಅವರೇ, ಪ್ರಾಂಶುಪಾಲರಾದ ಗಣಪತಿ ಗೌಡ್ರವರೇ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಶೇಷಪ್ಪನವರೇ, ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಮಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ನನ್ನ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆ ಕನ್ನಡ. ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅಭಿಮಾನಿ. ಆದರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಸಮಾರಂಭವನ್ನು ಯಾಚಿಸಿದಾಗ ತುಷಾರ್ ಗಾಂಧಿಯವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡ ಅರ್ಥವಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಹಾಗೆ ಕೆಲವರಿಗೂ ಅರ್ಥವಾಗದಿದ್ದ ಕಾರಣ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಕೆಲವು ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ನಲ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳಬಯಸ್ತೇನೆ. Yes, the name of Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, instills in every one of us an inspiration, a reverence and respect, especially for a generation whom I belong to. There are very few, I feel, who belong to a generation of mine who were born before the independence, like Professor Tirmaleshwar Bhatt, or maybe few others. Many of us, the younger generation, may not know the Pew Research of United States, which has been modified to different countries, divided the age on their behavior, on what they have done, what they have not done, into different categories. They called us those who are born before the World War, that was 1945, or to our Indian perspective, before 1947, the silent generation. Yes, we were a silent generation. We were moderates. We got whatever we asked for or aspired for, and we did not ask for something which we are not due. And most of our generations were a satisfied lot. The next generation were called the baby boomers. They were from 1948 or 1946 in the Western countries to 1964. Many of them, perhaps even Dr. Rai or even Tushar Gandhi, or many of the ebullient persons who have done their best in their life, belong to this generation. Many of you do not know, younger generation, that majority of the Nobel Prize winners all over the world belong to this 18 years range. The best of the inventions, best of the politicians perhaps, belong to this age. Then came the X generation, X generation were between 1964 to 1980. They followed the baby boomers. They got whatever they wanted. They were born, they will do whatever they needed. But what was important for today's relevance of discussion of Gandhi's philosophy were what we call it the millennials. Millennials who were born between 1984 to almost 2004 or 5. The next were the Z generation or whatever you call it, that is not relevant. Most of you youngsters who are in the back benches belong to this age. Today's seminar was mainly on the relevance of Gandhiji's teachings, ideology to the young youth, and not what is happening in politics or what has been done. Today's relevance, today's seminar is to teach our youngsters, to make our youngsters understand, as Professor Krishna rightly said, the relevance of Gandhi's philosophy, ideology to the younger generation. Many times I feel we may not agree with Mr. Tushar Gandhi on what he has spoken, but many times he mentioned about what can be done to the generation which is there, but not to the younger generation, what they should do to take the philosophy, ideology of Mahatma Gandhi to their everyday life. You know, the population of our country, those who belong below 25 years today are 50%. Those who are below 29 are 65%. In the whole nation, whole world, we are the largest younger generation in the world. So this seminar should tell these youngsters how to convert themselves to the ideology, the principles, the preachings of Gandhiji. That is the relevance of this seminar. And that is what is to be undertaken. What did Gandhiji preach? Non-violence, ahimsa, truth, satyagraha, satyam. Truth prevails. Sacrifice, tyaga, simplicity in life, and more than all, cooperation. And that is how we got us the independence, with cooperation of people. This has to be given to the younger generation. And not what our government has done, what our government hasn't done. It is you, as Mr. Tushar Gandhi rightly said, what my generation has done or what his generation has done, what his generation has done is not important. What your generation can do to this country is relevant. And this seminar should see that this is done, so that even if 10% of you who are sitting there can follow this principle, it is worth of spending 2 hours of our time here discussing different aspects of Gandhi's life. It is we should inculcate, we the teachers in the colleges, the parents in the families, the society at large should see that they inculcate the principles and ideology of Gandhiji to the younger world. And that is what is quite important. I won't take much time, but I always take this as the greatest words Gandhiji has ever given to the society at large, at the greatest 7 sins which he preached, which should not be followed and which our youngsters should see that they follow. Pleasure without conscience. Nowadays we see the younger generation, pleasure without conscience. We see the They go about in the costliest of the cars and kill people. They have pleasures without any conscience. That has to be indulged in our younger generation. Number two, business without morality. Mr. Gandhi rightly mentioned, Tushar Gandhi rightly mentioned how immoral things are. If every businessman in this country is moral, I had read in the paper a rice merchant was putting stones into the rice to see that the weight of the bag increases. This is immorality. And this has to be taught to the younger generation. And science without humanity. Whether it is the war which is happening in Israel or war which is happening in Ukraine, it is because of this, that science is used not for the welfare of the people, but for the detriment of people. And number four, he mentioned about, rightly so, the politics which Mr. Tushar Gandhi narrated in his own way, politics without principles. Yes, if only every time we tell the politicians, the younger generation or our generation would tell, the principles has to be followed. It is easy to criticize them, but how to convert them is important for Gandhi's philosophy. Gandhi tread his life and footsteps in converting people. He did not preach people, he was a model by himself, by simple living. And Mr. Tushar Gandhi rightly mentioned about religion. Religion without sacrifice has no meaning at all. Whether it's a Muslim or a Hindu or a Jain or a Sikh or whatever Christian, unless he knows what is sacrifice and how sacrifice can work in our daily life, it has no meaning at all. So, gentlemen, let us teach our youngsters as examples. Me as a surgeon teaches the younger generation of my own fold these facts of life. I would have not done my work. And Mr. Pratap Shetty, as a retired official in his everyday life, teaches to the farmers what is principles. That is teaching of Mahatma Gandhi to go to the root level to the younger generation. So, I have been asked, I went off the mark, but I have been asked to release two very important books. I have known Mr. Pramod Kumar Rai for the last nearly 60 years. And I have seen his family, and I have seen what he has done to the society at large. His great book, I'm sorry, On the Trail to Gandhiji's Footsteps. Yes, I have seen his father. I was one of the very few. We had conversation many times. He lived a Gandhian life. That is the ideology we will have to preach. This book has given in detail, I went through that, how simple he was. He was wearing qadar throughout his life. He used to travel by only government buses or private buses and not in the cars. And he helped his servants to the utmost. He educated his servants, which is more important than educating his own children. That is all written in this beautiful book. And that is the way we must tell our youngsters, here was a Gandhian who did not preach, but he acted. We have preachers, but no actors. So that is important in our life. The second book which he mentioned, which he had written so beautifully, is Before I Return to the Soil. I have known him as a very important official in the cooperative cadre. He rose to the highest degree. He was a registrar, and he was about to be given IAS. But as is rightly, it happens. It happens in every field of life. that you are negative for no reasons at all, and you are not awarded the IAS. As a young man who stood for right like his father, he retired from service and showed, I am for principles and not for power. And after he came back, he started his cultivation. He is one of the most famous farmers in the Taluk of Puttur. That shows, that is the Gandhian philosophy, sacrifice. Sacrifice for the betterment of the society, and Pramod Kumar Rai has shown what sacrifice is. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure these two books will be real eye-openers for the Gandhian way of life and how to tread the path of sacrifice. With this little thought of mine, let us march forwards very firm in our faith. That is faith which is required. If we have faith in Gandhian philosophy, we should imbibe it, we should cultivate it, we should act it. Let us march forwards very firm in our faith, sustained in our confidence, in the will of God and promise of younger generation like you to lead this country to greater heights. Finally, I would like to quote the famous wordings of Upanishad. Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu, Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhav Bhavit. May God bless you all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.